unlocking your world of creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson. This episode is brought to you by White Cloud Coffee Roasters, where every bean tells a story of adventure. Visit whitecloudcoffee.com and use the code CREATIVITY.
Welcome back, friends, to our podcast, Your World of Creativity. And we're the podcast where we dive into inspiration and insight behind some of the world's most creative minds. And today we're going to talk about mental wellness, creative connections, and a new way to approach your communications, perhaps. Our guest is a licensed professional counselor, a licensed chemical dependency counselor. She has decades of experience. Welcome in, Jill Robin Payne. Jill, welcome to the show.
Oh, Mark, thanks for having me.
Jill is a true trailblazer. She started as her college first intern at the National Institutes of Health. She later continued her journey through the VA hospital in Houston and has authored a great book and trademarked a whole concept called Bempathy, which I know we're going to get into as a blend of banter and empathy. I think it's great when we coin these words. Yeah. Jill, let's start at the very beginning. What led you to pursue mental health, and especially from the creative point of view? How's your life's work?
So I'm going to say it started when I was very young because my dad, who was an ophthalmologist, and my mom, who helped all these different types of people. She was a head of the Cerebral Palsy Center and just was all over helping people way back when. So they were good role models. And then, of course, genetics. So I've always been where I love relationships. That's just my thing. I love people. I really do. I love people. And you know what? It comes across that I love people. So there's some people that may drive you crazy. I still love humans and appreciate them. So that's probably where it started. I volunteered in high school, at nursing homes, and college. I was a volunteer at the hospital. I went with my dad to visit his clients, or his patients, should I say. And that's way back when, this is really telling my age, when they did cataract surgery, Mark, and they had to put bags on the sides of your head so you wouldn't move because there was no eye intraocular lens. So That's how far back. And so then I just started to want to help people. And my undergrad is recreational therapy. I wanted to teach people how to play because we don't do that enough. Yeah, we do. We really do. And then I decided later on, when I was having problems in my marriage, that my first marriage, I'm married for the second time, that I'd get a psychology degree and I would help people have happier marriages. So that's how it all started. And I'm here. I've been communicating since I was born. I probably popped out and said, "Hey, Mom and Dad."
Well, let's talk about it.
Really? There you go.
It's terrific. Certainly this understanding and study of human behavior
Yes.
led you to create now this innovative concept called empathy.
Yes.
What is it? And what was the idea created for you?
So the idea was created, I was even on a PBS station about 10 years ago with my own little segment for 6 months called Meeting People, It's Not a Game, which is my first book. And that was because we were meeting people more online, or it was the beginning of where we were talking, and the talking was becoming texting. I would have my clients come in, Mark, and they say, "Oh yes, I talked to my partner, I talked to my boyfriend or girlfriend." And I said, "Did you talk or text?" And they go, "Text." And so this has been going on for years, and they've been studying it. So it's not just social media what's changing our brains and changing our outlook and our behavior, it's screen time. So I don't know if you remember way back when we got colored TV, my parents would say, only 1 hour. They had it right. We need to limit our screen time. We need to have less of it in school because this is changing, and they're doing studies now, changing the frontal lobe of our brain where we do critical thinking. We even have emotional IQ there. And so many different things. And so we don't even know all that it's doing. It is causing a lot of stress. The cortical steroid, or the cortical hormone, is on the rise when you're doing a lot of screen time. And that's how come people get a little bit anxious when they're always on screen time or watching too much TV.
So how does this combination then of banter and empathy, how does it really play out in real world day-to-day interactions?
We're doing it right now,
Yep.
and it's banter with empathy. And so basically, we are doing too much now. So it's a good combination because we're looking for balance in our life. We need to work with technology because technology is always going to exist. It's not just digital, it's just constantly advancing. That's what humans like to do. We like to better ourselves. And so we need to have this balance with the empathy and the banter. And so they're doing even studies now where banter, which is chit chat with a little humor, is getting our brains to synchronize. There's neuroscientists that are now about a month ago, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal where this neuroscientist was just basically validating that bantering is a great thing and we need to start doing it more. The problem is a lot of the kids don't know how much to do. So we're too fast now and too much. And so we need to slow it down. And in my Meeting People book, which is my first book I did, I even tell people, I say, you know what? Pretend there's a throttle on your leg, just like in a car, and you pull it back just to slow down the process. So we don't just need to banter, we need to also slow it down. And in Bempathy, the first step is really empathizing. And I'm not talking empathizing emotionally, I'm talking cognitively. Because if we emotionally empathize all the time, I don't know about you, but during COVID, oh my gosh, I was just like a milk carton.
Too much.
Yes. So we can't really do that. So when we're talking about Bempathy, we're talking about cognitively empathizing, really understanding where that person's coming from. And then the next step is then you banter. We don't want to just say, right, when we first started talking, right? I talked about you, I talked about your dog. I wanted to find out more about you. And that's really creating what is next, which is the third step, which is always focusing on a win-win. We can't always win. If you focus on a win-win, you're going to have more of a chance of winning, both parties, than losing, because you're focusing on winning. You don't go in the Indianapolis 500, I'm going to lose. You go in it saying, I'm going to win. The same with conversations and Bempathy. You go in with a winning thought process, and it's not all about me, even though I'd love it to be.
Yeah,
It's about us and we.
for sure. Well, and speaking of teams, as I think about the listeners and their creative processes
Yes.
and the creative development of so many projects in teams, it has to do with resolving conflict sometime, all the way to improving collaboration. Where can this concept help us in these kind of everyday creative interactions?
I'm so glad you asked, because you're very much into business, and I think life is a business. It's a career. And if we don't get ROI on a conversation, and that is, you probably can tell your audience is
Yes.
return on investments, right? So if I don't feel I'm getting anything out of the conversation, then it's going to dwindle. I'm not going to want to participate. And so I keep saying we need to make things fun. Life is hard. There's no reason why we can't make conversation fun. That's what banter's about. What happened to humor? What happened to humor? We're afraid to say certain things. And I don't mean making fun of other people. I mean making fun of things and being lighthearted, because no one is perfect. And I think we need to step back. And this is part of Bempathy. There's the Bempathy triangle where you have a situation, Mark, and then you step back, either emotionally, physically, or both, so that you can see the big picture. And so empathy is really not, I think it's a movement. It's it's a concept. It's a new way of talking in this fast-paced digital life, so that every situation's different. Have you ever met one person that's this?
Exactly.
I've never met. All my clients are different. If I just did, I don't know, I can't even think of just a CBT on everybody, that might not work for them. And if I did do cognitive behavioral therapy, which is CBT, I would give various ways to do it, because I need to speak your language, and everyone has a different language.
Yes.
And we need to sit back and, like I said, empathize. Put yourself in that person's position cognitively. That means up here in your brain. And see how you can make that situation a win-win. And it's not manipulation. I talk to me, oh, that's manipulation. Is it manipulation to want both parties to be happy
Right, to actually
or
connect with
content?
someone. Yes.
Exactly. Is that manipulation? I don't know.
Well,
It's something
a
to think about.
and you think about connecting with someone even in a short period of time, but people
Right.
we work with,
Right.
people in our relationships, we never know where they are at that moment. But,
Exactly.
certainly the mental wellness part, or in the
Right.
creative process, we face a lot of
Right.
rejection, we face a lot of obstacles, and sometimes that goes deep. The fear of rejection or the past
Yes.
traumas that we're bringing
Yes.
into the room.
Yes.
Where does this mental wellness come in? And maybe there's a little empathy needed for a healing process
Exactly.
where you can move
Exactly.
on.
And so even in my books, I talk about there's something called the map of reflection. I love it. I created it during COVID. And it's not like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I think it's as good. So there goes my ego. And we are the center of our world. So our world is us. If I am not content, no one in my world is going to be content around me. And action creates reaction, which is Newton's law. I didn't create it. So we are the first. We need to think about ourselves. Matter of fact, can I tell you a quick story?
Sure.
I tell this quite often because I think it's funny. I was sitting, this was a couple of months ago, I was sitting with my husband and we're watching TV, and us wives were picking at y'all. And so I look at my husband and I said, Byron, all you do is sit there, watch TV, and stuff your daggone face. I probably used other words besides that. And you know what he had the audacity to say, Mark? He looked at me and he said, Joe, you're doing the same thing. Right? So
Yes.
times we look at other people, and in Bempathy, it's banter with empathy. And we need to do that on ourselves first because it's timing and position. If I'm not in the right space or position, then it's probably not the right time for me to have a really intricate conversation. And if I'm at work and I need to talk to my boss, take a moment. If you need to do that meeting that day, take a moment. There's no reason why you can't take 5 minutes before the meeting. Everyone needs to go to the bathroom every now and then. I tell people, just say, I need to excuse myself for a second. I'll be right back.
Just
And
take a break.
take a break. Take a
So
break.
interesting.
Exactly. Get a
Yeah.
different perspective.
Throughout your career and work with so many clients, I'm sure
Yes.
you've taught behavior modification. I know you've written
I
some
thought it. Yeah.
rehabilitative guides and so forth. But thinking about habits and how we continue to maybe repeat the same patterns, the
Exactly.
same conversations. As so many of us say, boy, I've seen this movie. I've lived this experience before. Why do we keep repeating that? But what helps us to maybe reframe some of those old
Right.
habits?
First, we need to realize we're doing it because a lot of times, just like I said, I looked at my husband and it was all his issue, not
Yes.
mine.
Right.
And we need to be able to receive it and understand that no one's perfect. And then to me, I like to tell people to replace it with something that is positive, something that adds to your life. If the habit is taking away, I have in my books, negative and positive instead of good and bad. Because what is good and what is bad? I really don't know. I know what will take away from my life. So if smoking a cigarette is taking away, then I'm going to look to replace it with something. And so I need to think about smoking. What do I get from it? What do I get from it? What does it do for me? What am I doing? It's an oral fixation. I'm moving my hand. What else could I do to replace that? That's how come I really talk about recreation and leisure activity instead of exercise. We need more movement in our life. So replace that with something that's a movement, something that's physical. I really do think that's a big thing. And then if that is difficult for you, then it's time to ask for help. And there's nothing wrong with that. When I'm lost, I ask for help. Even if my phone's not working,
Yes,
I stop my car and I ask for help. Yeah.
exactly. Sometimes these habits go a totally different direction. And that I wanted to ask about your work in chemical dependency
Right.
counseling. Many creatives often struggle with substance abuse,
Sure.
but I also wonder how creativity can contribute or aid in the recovery process. And how can these
Right.
things intersect for good?
So you're saying that do something creative?
Yes, in other words, how can the creative really tapping into one's creativity help
Right.
them in their substance abuse recovery.
So again, if you're using my Bempathy, you're going to want them to connect with something. To me, when I talk to people, I don't believe in affirmations. I believe in saying something that you believe, so that I look and I talk with you. And if you say, I had someone say the other day to me, I don't like people. Then I said to him, I said, you just said you were talking to your mom and that you love her, and you're talking to me, and I think you like me. So therefore you like some people. And then they said, yeah. So then you change it to, then you focus on, I like some people, instead of saying, I don't like people. That in itself is going to change your attitude. And if you have an addiction of some sort, I just can't do anything with this. I've tried everything. Then well, have you tried everything? What have you tried? What is working? How often during the day are you sober? What do you do when you're sober? Focus on the positive. So I tell people, if you have a glass of white milk that's sort of blah, and you want to make it chocolate, you can leave the white milk in that container of that glass, and then you take a carton, and with dynamics and physics, you pour the chocolate milk into that cup of white milk, and that it will turn to chocolate milk because the white is going to spill out and overflow. You will have a residue of that white milk. It'll turn mostly chocolate. That's what I tell people. Fill your day with positive things, and the negative things are going to fall out. We only have 24 hours in a day.
Well, exactly.
So these are different things, and I really can't stress this enough. Life is not done alone. Even you have a dog. People that are by themselves, they have an animal. So we're not an island, and we need to remember that when we are in an issue. And so it's okay. We need to find people that can help us with this issue and focus on the positive. I say focus on what you want, not what you don't want. I want my husband I don't want to say, I want my husband to stop nagging me, or I want my husband to not put up the toilet seat. I just say, I want him to put the toilet seat down. We need to say what we want more.
So good. I can tell, Jill, from your not only written work, but your interviews, and I've watched a lot of your videos on social
Thank you.
media.
Thank you.
Yeah, it all seems to come from a very personal, heartfelt,
Right.
caring. I noticed your philosophy, spreading the goodness. It really guides a lot of what you do. How
Thank
can
you.
we take away this idea of not just I don't like people? That's something I find that many of us say sometimes when we're just a little
Right.
bit overwhelmed. But where do we come from a more caring and connecting, and as Bempathy might imply, an empathetic place?
Right. And again, I say we need to sit with us. We need to think about us. And when I say that, I don't mean egotistical, or I don't mean be a narcissist. Think of us as an example of all the humans in the world. Not all of us feel pain, by the way, Mark. Most of us feel pain. There's a very small percentage that don't, and they die young. Because what does pain tell us? It's a signal. It tells me to move. If I'm in a chair and I'm uncomfortable, I'm going to move. I'm going to maybe change positions, or I'm going to get up and pick a new one. And so pain is very important. And we need to listen to ourselves and think about, what do humans really want? And we all want to be heard. We all want to be appreciated. And you know what? I don't have to like my boss to appreciate his work. I
Good
don't
point.
have to. Exactly. I don't have to like people to get along with them, to get a project done. We need to start focusing on what we want. If I focus on, I don't like my boss, I'm not going to get my project done. If I focus on, gosh, he's very smart. He really does have a great idea here. Let's maybe work together on that idea. So this is what I'm saying with my Bempathy. It's a bigger picture than just communication. We got to be able to communicate with ourselves. I have something in my book called Conversing with Self in Third Person. And to do it out loud, I tell clients to do it in their phone and listen to yourself. And you'll come up with ideas. Believe me, you'll come. And if you don't, again, ask somebody.
Yes. I've left off talking to you about your concepts and your approach. Also, on this creativity podcast, we also talk about how to get the work out. So I'd love to hear about your own creative process to author the books, produce the books, publish,
Right.
market the books. What
Right.
has been your journey as an author?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you really want to know my whole I've learned, matter of fact, I told my husband if he wants to do a book to get someone to publish it. I thought, let me tell you what my mindset was. Being a controlling individual, I thought, you know what? When I first wrote my Meeting People book, I said, I want to publish this myself because I want to have my own title, my own cover. And I heard all these things when publishers get you, they change things. And I am so out there that I didn't want to be changed. Matter of fact, I have a saying. In my office, I have a beautiful 1968 Camaro that my son used to have. And I tell everyone, you are that 1968 Camaro, that beautiful classic. You wouldn't want to make it anything different, or Mercedes or anything, because it wouldn't be that classic. You may want to tune it up, polish it, and realign it. And that's how I feel about people. So I made the mistake of not going to a publisher. And when you start publishing yourself, your first book, then publishers will not look at you after that. So I tell people, if you do want to, if you're going to write a book, I really would send it to publishers because then they help you out. They may take a percentage. Find a publisher that is your culture, that really thinks like you and will keep the concept that you have. And so I think that was I'm going to say that was, I don't like to say really a mistake. It was an avenue that I think if I did it again, I would choose differently. How did you like that? I didn't
So
say
helpful.
mistake.
That's
I
right.
said it. There you go. And
Yeah.
that's part of Bempathy. Think of different words to use, and it makes us feel better. And no one's perfect. And I
Yeah.
think we learn from people.
Good insight. Thanks for sharing that experience.
Oh, you're
Well, know what a joy talking with you today. I want to be sure that listeners know how to connect with you and find your work. Where can we find you?
Okay. I have a website. That is my name, JillRobinPayne.com. And then I also am on Amazon, and my Meeting People book is also on all the audios. And I'm on all the platforms. It's at Jill Robin Payne. So I am not a Payne, P-A-I-N. I am P-A-Y-N-E. And Jill like Jack and Jill, Robin like the bird, Payne like a window pane. So there you
Fantastic.
go. And you can
And listeners, I'll put all those links in the show notes so it's easy to click and follow you. Jill Robin Payne has been my guest. Jill, what a pleasure. Thanks for
Have a good
sharing
one.
this concept of empathy, this holistic approach to communication. I
Right.
think it's given us a lot to think about and reflect on and really apply to our day-to-day life. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
And listeners, I also want to thank our sponsor, White Cloud Coffee Roasters. They supported this episode. Don't forget, you can enjoy a 10% discount off your order when you use the code CREATIVITY at checkout. So visit whitecloudcoffee.com and explore all their amazing coffees. And if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite app. Join us again next time. We're going to continue our around-the-world journeys to talk to creatives everywhere about how they get inspired, how they organize the ideas, and most of all, how we gain the confidence and the connections to get our work out into the world. Until next time, I'm Mark Stinson, and we'll keep unlocking your world of creativity.